Hey, it's Craig Syracuse. Welcome to an episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we take you beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might recognize them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do you know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out. On today's episode, I had the opportunity to talk with actor Sam Worthington about his role in the film The Shack, where he plays a man seeking faith and hope after suffering a devastating loss. Stay tuned to hear about Sam's own spiritual journey and walk with us. So thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. I was fortunate that when I saw the film the other day, I was the only one in the theater. So when I started to cry, nobody really heard me. But for you to get to that emotional state, what did you have to tap into? Like, what type of life experiences or emotional preparation did you do?
I don't really like talking about the process that much because it dilutes it for me. But you tap into what's inside you, all your own experiences, and use that. And then the second part is the other person opposite. So either the world that you've created or the other actor, that helps you unleash it. And if you're truthful and honest, it works. You can tricksy it and fabricate it and act it, but I'm very much, I try to keep it as truthful as possible. Yeah.
I think it definitely displayed throughout the film. And in the film, faith was so important to Mac. How is that in your own personal life? Is faith important to you in your personal life?
Look, I wasn't raised religious. I didn't come from a Christian background. When I was about 19, my friend gave me a Bible, said, look, you're a bit hectic, calm down a bit, maybe read this. There might be some lessons to learn in it. And I did. I read it, I found some fantastic stories that I could see were having an effect on changing my life. So from the last 20 odd years, I've been kind of figuring out what this relationship is with God. I go into churches around the world and I feel embraced. And so I'm on that kind of faith journey with God and myself right now, and as I did the movie, and it was kind of bizarre, and there was questions that I'd had in the last 20 years that Mac gets kind of answers for. So, you know, that's how it kind of affected me.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, what was because especially for me, after reading the book and watching the movie, what was your emotional state like during the filming and after reading the script? What happened immediately afterwards?
I read it. Sometimes you choose a movie because, you know, the actor's great, the story, the way they're going to do it is compelling. And this one I just read, and emotionally kind of, there were things that struck a chord with me. When he says to his daughter, I can't do this alone, you know, and I kind of went, I get this. It's viscerally affecting me. So that's why I wanted to do the story. And then that kind of takes its toll when you film it.
How do you separate the two? Like, how do you separate the character and your personal life?
It's hard. But I have kids. I have a wife that tells me to stop, and you have to, you know, leave your work at the door and come in. But it changes you, and hopefully you're doing a movie. This is a hopeful movie, so hopefully it was changing me for the better in a weird way. But with kids, you can't bring your work home with you. Yeah.
And in the film, prayer was so important to Mac and his family. Is prayer important to you? Do you pray? Do you ask God for anything?
A friend of mine asked me this the other day. I said to him, when my kid is upset, I can hold my kid. My kid's like 2. He can't tell me what's wrong. But I know that by giving him a hug, I'll make him feel better. So sometimes when life's been a bit overwhelming for me, I pray to God. And God almost isn't talking to me. He's not giving me the answers. But I feel that calm. I feel that hug. And that's kind of how it feels when I pray. Like, it has that same kind of comforting factor that I don't know what the answers are, just like Mac doesn't know how to begin, but I do feel better, and I feel that helps me on my way. So yeah.
I like that. And one thing, because I have a son too, a 1-year-old, and I always say to myself, how do I explain what heaven is, or how do I explain what God is? Like, what do you picture? Like, what would you tell your kids if they...
At the moment, I'm trying to figure out how to tell him what life is. You know what I mean? My son's 2, and I have a even younger boy.
Wow.
So you look at them, and those kind of questions that I'm searching for, I'm searching out for what life is, so hopefully we can do it together, I think, and figure it out together.
And in the film, Mac has to forgive, his father as well as,
Yeah.
Have you in your own personal life ever had to forgive someone like that? And is there anything that's just completely unforgivable?
No, I think everything is, I think that's what the Bible teaches you. Everything is forgivable. Everything you can move through. And if you can move through it with that kind of grace and dignity and ease, I think that's what it's about. It's about harboring grudges and building your shack of anger and frustration. It is about how to get through this life with that calm. In regards to me, yeah, of course, I've had frustrations and I've had to learn how to forgive myself a lot. It's a very hard lesson. It's the same lesson that Mac struggles with, because you don't know where to begin. And sometimes your relationship with God, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone there that even if you feel completely alone and desperate, there is someone there that can help you.
He's always listening.
Yeah, always.
And like you said, I'm a father, you're a father, and that has completely changed my life.
Yeah.
It puts life in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like, or what is it like now being a father?
You just said it. It's life affirming. You now know what I'm doing. In regards to when I work, it's not. I call having kids the antidote to selfishness. So and they rule my world. That's it, 100%. Them and my wife.
Yeah, it's a great feeling though.
Yeah,
What was your relationship like with your parents?
it's good. My parents are, luckily still together. They live in Australia, so the distance kind of sometimes helps when we get a bit passionate with each other. But it was good. I had a great, easy upbringing. My dad was very good. At 17, my dad sent me to the other side of Australia. He said, "Work your way back, son," because I didn't really know what to do with my life. Now, to have the courage to do that and release his son to the world and trust that his son will grow up and come back, and my dad's always been very open that I find my own way and make my own mistakes, because as he said, that's through the mistakes you figure it out. You figure out what the type of person you want to be is. So that kind of fallibility has always been something I've gravitated towards.
And on that journey, did you have, or have you ever had sort of like an awakening where something just clicks and it says, okay, now I know what the purpose of my life is?
No. When my sons were born, that illuminated life to me, but I couldn't give you a specific on it. But yeah, when they were born, it changed everything.
Did this film inspire you as a person, or has it changed you or brought you closer to your faith or
I think it
to your family?
calmed me down. I think it made me realize you don't have to be ashamed to say that you believe in God. I think that's, unfortunately, sometimes in this world it's a bit taboo in sometimes. And I think what I got out of it, that it's a hopeful film, even though this man goes through such pain and he abused as a kid, he loses his daughter. It's very heartbreaking, but the message is hopeful. It's okay. We're not alone, and we can do it moment by moment, get through it together.
And in the film, I don't know if you've had that similar experience as Mac, but have you ever felt like maybe God was talking to you, or He put something in your heart that's sort of like that burning sensation? You say, this is not my own desires, this is something more than that?
As I said, I think my relationship is developing and growing. 20 years, I'm still going back to my mate's Bible that he gave me and reading, say, King David, and going, well, there was a fallible king, and he learnt lessons, and it was okay. And I love that story. Because every time then I make these terrible mistakes in my life, it's okay. It's forgivable. You can move onward on it. So, that's what it's about, growth and learning and openness. Yeah.
What do you think the ultimate plan is for your life and your career?
Tell you when it's done. Yeah, I always look at a career as something in retrospect, that I can look back on and go, all right, those choices were made at that time because of this reason. But when you're in the moment, in the present, it's very hard to kind of analyze that, and I don't want to.
And last question is, when during that meal, when Jesus and God cooked for you, what did you think about? Like, what did that food taste like? Because there was such a funny
I
scene.
just thought of the best thing my wife's ever cooked for me.
What was that?
Everything. Every day she cooks something perfect. See, I'm a good husband.
I know, they'll never forget that.
Happy
if you
wife,
say.
happy life, man. That's it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this
Cool,
opportunity.
no worries. It was great talking
Thank
to you.
Hey, when we come back, we're going to be on the red carpet of the film The Shack. We had the opportunity to speak with some of the cast and crew about the film and how the film inspired them in their own personal faith journey. We're also going to find out some behind-the-scenes information. Stay with us. Hey, it's Craig Siracusa, and we are at MoMA today getting ready for the red carpet for The Shack. As you can see, the crowd is piling in, and all the celebrities are about to take the red carpet. Stay tuned.
Hey, Greg.
Just had a couple of questions. Actually, I love the film, by the way.
Oh, fantastic.
I was lucky. I was the only one in the theater, so when I started to cry, nobody turned
all you.
around. Yeah. So just a couple of questions. What are you hoping? I mean, for me, I was very inspired by the film. But what is your intentions? What do you hope the audience will take away from the film?
You know, I think everybody's been acquainted with pain, and most everyone feels pretty abandoned in the midst of it. This film really gives hope. It shows you a wonderful look at God in a way that I don't think most people are used to seeing. And I think it unveils his heart for us in the midst of it, that we're never as alone as we think.
Well, I agree. And you know, it's funny you said about, especially in Hollywood, I see sometimes it's taboo, and even Sam said it's taboo for celebrities to speak out about their faith. Why is that?
You know, I think that's changing. I don't know that, I think they've sort of wondered like there's some stigma. I think what we've tried to do in this story is bust a lot of the stereotypes. I think God's incredibly generous and gracious. I think sometimes the church needs to embrace that a little more. And I think this story really unveils God's heart in a way that does that. So I think it allows people to not feel like they have to be, like that has to be put in the closet.
Yeah.
So,
And one other thing, would you like to see more films similar to The Shack, like more inspirational films?
I think so. I mean, the book demonstrated that there's a huge audience that's really curious spiritually. It busted all of the stereotypes. Most folks didn't know what to do with it. I think the film's going to do the same thing because there's far more people that go to movies than are book readers. I think people are very spiritually curious. There's no sales pitch in this. And so I think to be able to explore that, everyone has questions. This does a great job of asking those, getting a look at that, but it doesn't try to force an answer.
Great. And what's your next project? What are you working on currently?
Gil's asked me to work on another movie with him called Proof of Heaven that we're excited to kind of get underway with.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
God bless. What was it like to prepare for this role? How did you prepare to play such an amazing role?
Well, I play the Holy Spirit, or Sarayu. The common wind is what it means. But it was very difficult to prepare for the role. I think you know, she's the Holy Spirit. You know, it's the first time it's ever being portrayed on film. So I was very nervous about that. But I think I came to the set every day with grace and a lot of peace and tried to ground myself every day and really become like Mother Nature in a sense, because you know in the film she's a gardener and she you know flows through and it becomes transparent in times and I tried to really you know be the light and it was very difficult, but I hope that it portrays through the film.
I love the way the garden looked. One other thing now, has the film brought you closer to your faith or to your family or just to life in general?
Yes, I think it has, but I was already a very spiritual person, I believe, but after you know reading the book, it opened my eyes. It was so moving. The story is just so beautiful, and I hope that everybody gets the same love and forgiveness, and I hope after they see the film, they go out to their families and give them big hugs and kisses.
I know I did. I know that for sure. So, tell me, I mean, what was it like to work with Sam? Tell me, what was your first impression?
Sam just delves so deep into his characters and he truly becomes them, and it was such an amazing experience getting to work with him as a young actor and getting to see the way that he really takes on the character that he portrays, and he's just such an inspiration in the acting world.
He's great. Now, what was your intentions? Like, what do you hope that The Shack will, you know, how will it reach audiences? What's your intentions?
I hope that The Shack really touches people, and I hope that they can see the way that God was created by William and how God is really portrayed. And I hope that they can see that it isn't the end of the line when you lose somebody, and that there's always hope at the end of that.
And prayer was so important in the film. Is prayer important to you? Do you pray? Do you ask God for anything?
I truly saw the Trinity in a different way, and I've always been a believer in God, and so working on The Shack was a way to kind of profound my knowledge of God and the way of the Holy Trinity, and it was a real eye-opener too.
And one other thing, like I have a son, a little baby, and I'm always saying to myself, when he asks me about God or about heaven, how do I explain that to him? What do you think heaven looks like?
I think heaven is something more than just pearly gates. I believe it's kind of the way it's portrayed, I guess, in The Shack. It's kind of just a beautiful open meadow. It's kind of a different way of looking at Earth, I guess, without all the hardships and darkness. So it's just kind of a perfect place.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Pleasure
you.
meeting
Good luck.
you.
So thank you so much for this great opportunity. Now, has the film brought you closer to your family or to your faith or just to life in general?
It's brought me closer to both my parents. I mean, I think the great thing about this film is that it's really a story about how men deal with their pain. And one of the things we have to do a lot of the time to be able to deal with our pain is really come to terms with our own fathers. And I definitely think it's brought my father and I closer together. We've always been close, but this is a movie that really spoke to both of us. Even reading the original script, I was just waterworks around a lot of the stuff between Mac and his dad because I can relate to a lot of that. And I think a lot of men can. I think as men, it's great that we're starting to live in a time where we're allowed to be more vulnerable that way. I mean, I know that my dad would say that it's hard for him not having been allowed to be that vulnerable, and we're really starting to move in a time where we're allowed to explore our pain and our vulnerability, and that's really a lot of what this movie's about.
I totally agree with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
God bless.
man.
Thank
All
you.
right.
You obviously had a chance to see the film. What was your perspective on the film? What would you say?
It was very creative. I think the illustrations were absolutely tremendous. And to see Octavia Spencer play the role of God, the creator, was absolutely incredible. You know, and for him to use Octavia Spencer to play that role, I think he shook it up a little bit.
And one other thing, I've noticed like lately, sometimes it's difficult for celebrities to speak out about their faith. Why do you think that is? Why is it difficult for them to identify with the faith?
Because I think that faith is as polarizing as political parties. You know, sometimes the Baptists are over here, the Pentecostals over here, the Apostolics over there, the Methodists over there, the Catholics are way over here, and the Presbyterians. And sometimes we just can't appreciate our relationship with God. And again, it's not for me to judge anybody's relationship because in the end, God will bring everything into judgment, the Bible says, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So everybody's going to have to give an account to God. So you need to get to know him for yourself.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Prayer was so important in the film. It was so prevalent. Do you pray? Do you have some sort of a connection with God?
Yeah, I'm a Jewish, and I'm kind of religious Jewish. I pray every day, every morning, and that's I always talk with him, always. Even now, when you speak with me, I know that he's here with me.
Has the film brought you closer to your family or to your faith after?
Of course. When I read the script, you know, it was so hard for me as a father. I cried a lot.
Me too. When I read the book, I was
I
hysterical.
cried a lot, and I always thought about Sam, how he can do a role like that, really. I don't know if I could do something like that, you know? I'm speaking now as a father.
Me too.
It's a bit hard for me. But I think it's a good story, and I think that story, the story give us a message about something very basic, and I love that story, and I feel connected to that story. I know many of families that lose their child in Israel in the army.
And you were in the military as well.
I have a cousin that killed in the army, and for his family, for my aunt, it was so, you can't imagine something like that. You can't imagine something like that. But in the end, they picked and they choose the faith, and they choose that there is a reason for all of that, and that is part of our life.
You did an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
God
I
bless
explained
you.
myself good
It was
because
great.
in Hebrew
No, that was
I'm doing
great.
it well.
It was great. God bless you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to just tell you something personal. When I read the book, it completely sort of put my life in perspective.
How cool is that?
It's funny, I told my priest that, and he said, there's no way that, and I swear, there was so many scenes in that book that literally put my life in perspective.
It's a human story. It's my story, and all I was trying to do is tell a real story for my kids, right? I made the 15 copies at Office Depot that did everything I ever wanted this book to do. But I think the resonance has been because it is a human story. It asks the good questions, the hard questions, and it doesn't give pat answers and simple ways out, but it says, you know what, you're not alone, and your tears matter, and this relationship, the questions you have about faith, those matter. And this is a God who is good and will meet you inside of that kind of loss. And that's what I'm hoping for everybody that sees the film.
Well, it definitely resonated with me. What was in terms of the film, what was your involvement with the film? Were you able to collaborate on the film as much as you wanted to?
I wasn't anticipating any involvement because when I laid the rights down and the creative control, I stepped back. But then Lionsgate and Gil Netter and Stuart Hazeldine, they all kind of embraced and said, would you come look at the script? Would you come talk about the actors? Would you come on set? I'm in a cameo.
What scene was that?
It's the scene where Willie, who's Tim McGraw, walks over with a dog, right? And their kids are piling into the car to go camping.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a shot of Tim, and if you look, there's this short, little overweight white guy carrying a book.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
It's like 2 seconds, right?
What was it? You needed the residuals? Why did you do it?
No, Gil asked me because Gil has never shot a movie based on a book, and the author was alive that he didn't put the author in it.
That's interesting.
So yeah, so it was a mark that he had. It only took 5 takes to walk through a scene, right? Yeah.
Just another question. What was the I think it was 1853. What was the significance behind the address?
Oh, 1853.
I say it was very prominent in the film. I asked one of my friends, we looked it up, I couldn't find anything in the Bible, but I could not figure out. Was there anything behind that number?
I'll tell you one that isn't in the book. It's in the book, but it's not in the movie.
The name of the
and it's in the little box, right?
Okay.
And if you look in the box, there's all these different kinds of things, but there was like a Luke Easter baseball card, and there was like $14 and some change. Well, if you look up Luke and the amount of money, it's the first verse of the story of the prodigal son, and that's right when he is going to run away from home, right? And after he poisoned the alcohol. So there are things like that. I'd have to go back and look at the number for 1853.
I wrote it down. I said, I wonder what the significance behind 1853.
Usually my numbers all have significance, but it could have been that was the address in the house at the shoot. Because I don't remember putting an address.
I said, I have to ask that question.
Yeah.
And then you had Joseph and Thomas, you had the apostles and stuff throughout the
We got everything that is sort of mixed in there. But you got to remember, I wrote this as a gift for my kids for Christmas, and it did what I wanted it to do. All of this, God's great grace and sense of humor.
So do you think that God's sort of controlling or inspiring your steps in life?
You know what? I think God loves participation. We're made in the image of a God who's never been alone. And this is about relationship. And I think God has a high view of our participation in who we are, and a God who submits by nature.
Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you are so much.
Thank you. You really did. Hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, always remember you have the ability to evangelize and inspire through your words and actions. Thank you for walking on the red carpet with us. Good night.